Hello, everybody. Welcome to Charm City Readers. This is Charissa Costa, and I am joined today by Ryan Hale. Hi, Ryan.
Hi, Charissa. How are you?
I am fine. A little sleepy, but I'm a mother, so that just happens.
It does.
Yeah, I feel like you never rest after you become a parent.
Yeah.
Never.
I'm a great grandpa, so I sleep like a baby now. So
You're a great grandpa.
I,
Congratulations.
yeah, I was an average grandpa, but I'm a great grandpa.
This is where all of the lines from your mystery series come from. It's now all making sense.
Yeah.
It's all clicking. Well, I want to introduce everyone to you. Obviously, I started out by reading one completely out of order, one of your mysteries, right? I think I read 4. Didn't I read 4?
Yes.
I read 4 of your what are they? Blake Franklin investigation series.
Yes, that's right.
Yep. And how many of those books are there?
There are 7, and I'm working on number 8 right now.
Of course you are. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you are an overachiever. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk today about crossing Big Coal River.
Yes.
And that's a series, but we're not going to start out with that right away. When I talked to Kimberly a few weeks ago, I thought it was sort of fun to do a lightning round first. You and I have been talking for a few minutes, but I think it's good that we're kind of smooth and cool. So we're going to do a lightning round of random things that I've decided are important.
Okay.
Are you up for it?
I'm ready.
Okay. Favorite color?
Blue.
Really? I'm red. Okay. Favorite music genre?
Country.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm a 90s country girl, but I'll need recommendations. I can't seem to get into it today.
Yeah. Let me clarify. Yes. 80s and 90s I prefer. If you
A little
give me,
Martina McBride.
yeah, I go back a little bit further. I mean, I like some Buck Owens and George Jones and
Oh
Conway Twitty,
yeah.
and yeah, I like the classic country.
Do you like the Judds? Because I'm a
The
huge Judds fan.
the Jets, as in the New York
The
Jets.
Judds, like
Oh,
Winona Judd,
yes,
right?
yes.
I hear like "Mama, He's Crazy" on a radio in a diner, and I can't talk anymore because I'm
Yeah,
listening to the Judds. Okay.
I hear Grandpa.
Oh, tell me about the good old days.
Yeah,
I saw Winona in concert. I mean, sometime in my 20s. I was living in Ohio still, and it was still like epic.
I saw the Judds in concert in Toledo, Ohio.
Until what were you doing in Toledo?
I used to be in the restaurant business, and I was managing a restaurant up there.
I hope we get to your book because there's way too much that we have in common right now.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to come back to that. We're going to come to I'm in the restaurant business. So that's fascinating.
And
Okay.
I am too. I am now again.
Okay, we're going to circle back. I know this is
Okay.
talk about your book, but I love a good connection.
Okay, let's go.
What's your favorite pastime that is not reading or writing?
My favorite pastime is being a spectator of sports, but especially of my grandchildren's sports.
Oh, you are a good grandfather.
One of the best. I have a coffee cup that tells me that.
One of the best you've ever known, right?
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
Extrovert.
See, and I'm an introvert, believe it or not.
Yep. I used to have 2 or 3 verts, and now I have extra. So
we're going to be best friends forever. I can feel it in my soul that we were meant to be together. Do you prefer the beach or the mountains?
The beach, but only from the sand. I don't like to go in the water.
Me too. I
Yeah.
don't like to go in the water. I just want to be at the water. But I prefer mountains for that reason.
Yeah. Mountains are okay, but I've lived in the mountains and I've lived near beaches, and I prefer the beach.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just every time I get close to the water, I hear.
Well, I'm short. You can't tell from this, but I'm under 5 feet, so I'm very short.
Oh,
and
wow.
So when all of our friends would like go to the beach and walk out to that sandbar, the sandbar where everybody hangs out, I would have to like almost die to get there. So it's not fun.
Yeah.
Paper books or Kindle?
I prefer paper books, but I switched to Kindle a few years ago, and now, and I actually gave almost 2,000 books to the local library.
You're a good man.
Yeah, I had all hardback books at the time,
Oh my
and
God.
because I'd been collecting them for years, and then I switched to Kindle, and now that's all I get.
I know you can't go back because it's just so easy.
It is. They go with me everywhere I go.
Audiobooks, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, me too. I'm always like reading one, listening to one at the same time. Thoughts. This is a new one. This is going to decide our friendship, Ryan. Thoughts on the Oxford comma?
Not a fan.
Oh, we were so close.
Yeah.
I love that comma. I cannot separate myself. The double space after the period and the Oxford comma. I can't let go.
It just makes me feel like you have to backspace, though. I just, I don't know.
I only remember to backspace half the time. Like I will double space and then I'll be like, oh, I did it again, and backspace. Yeah, it's a total pain. Okay, well, now we know each other. We were almost close to being best friends. That silly Oxford comma.
Missed it by a comma.
That should be a shirt. Missed it by a comma. So let's talk books. Obviously, we're here to talk about your Crossing Big Coal River series.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to hear how you got into being an author, right? Because I read some of your story about being in telecom, which I was in telecom for a bit. So I'm just super curious. Like, I know we're twins, except I'm really, really short, and you're probably quite a bit taller than I am.
I'm 5'21".
That's really
tall. 4'21". I'm sorry, not 5 foot. 4'21".
I'm 4'11". So you've got a lot of inches on me.
Yeah.
So tell me, how do we get from Ryan, born in Charleston, West Virginia, right?
Mm-hmm, that's right.
To Ryan living in Texas, working in restaurants and being an author?
Okay. So, I was an Air Force brat. And so we moved all over the place. My dad joined the Air Force to get out of the mountains of West Virginia when he was 17. And so I was the third child. And we had third child in 5 years, and third of 6, actually. And we moved around a lot. And then when I became an adult, I got into the restaurant business. I started managing restaurants, and then I started opening restaurants for a company. And then I got transferred to Dallas, Texas. Ended up down here. Ended up getting out of the restaurant business after getting injured, and went into telecom, and did that for a while. And then I retired 11 years ago. And about it'll be 2 years in December. My brother-in-law passed away from COVID, and we went to his funeral up in Michigan. And while I was there, my sister-in-law said something to me that made me kind of sparked an idea. She said that the hardest thing for her was sitting at the table and looking across at the empty seat. And I've always written poetry my entire life, always. And I've always wanted to be a writer, but I never thought that I could write a book, because everything I saw on television and the movies was authors who were frustrated because of writer's block, and it's taken them years to get where they are. And I don't have that kind of patience. So I never even attempted it. I wrote a poem called The Empty Seat, and my wife and my sister-in-law both loved it. And my wife encouraged me she said, if you're going to write, get serious and try to get published. And I told her someday, and she said, at our age, we don't have a lot of somedays. So if you're going to do it, do it. And so that was the 15th of December, and I started writing. And I've been...
What year?
Of 2022. So coming up on 2 years. And I write 8 to 10, sometimes 12 hours a day. I just sit with my laptop and I write, and I love it. Absolutely love it.
Okay.
And
so
I haven't experienced writer's block yet. And I just go nuts on a daily basis.
Okay. So the books I'm aware of, we just talked about 7 in the mystery series, working on 8. So let's just just say 8.
Okay.
3 in this series.
Yes.
Coal River series. I don't know if you're calling it something different, Coal River, but that's not my name.
It's Big Coal River. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So are there others? Are there other books?
Yeah. I've got those 10. And then I've got a couple of novellas that I wrote. One mystery, and one is a prequel to the Franklin series. And then I wrote a book of poetry,
I knew that one.
And a memoir. And then I wrote a standalone mystery, which was my very first one, which was called The Year of the Rat.
I remember. Yep.
And then I wrote a mystery, a standalone mystery that, well, it's actually not a standalone. It's going to be part of a series now called Wallingford Heights.
Is that the hair one?
Yes, the hair raisers. Yes.
That's how I define it, the hair one. Yeah. Wait a minute. So how many books have you written in less than 2 years?
So that's 14, 15, something like that. Yeah.
I don't even have a question. I don't even know, like, what?
So, yeah. So, well, when I started writing, so the memoir was easy because I knew the subject matter really well. And it took me about a month to write that. And then I started right away on The Year of the Rat, because the other thing that my sister-in-law said to me that made me think was, because of COVID protocol, she was not allowed to go into the room with my brother-in-law when he was dying. They had to stay outside and look through a window. And she said when she stood there and looked down the corridor of the hospital, it was all these families outside looking in at elderly people dying. And she said it just seemed to me like the disease was targeting the elderly. And it just gave me the idea of writing a book about bad government and bad medical research getting together and deciding to kill off the old people and the sick people for the purpose of helping the world's economies by getting rid of Medicare recipients and Social Security recipients and that sort of thing. And I called it The Year of the Rat.
So that's an inspirational one.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. And COVID is the backdrop, and it sounds like it's a political thing, but it's really not. It doesn't come down on one side of the aisle or the other. It comes down on the side of a guy trying to survive while assassins are after him, kind of thing.
Would you classify that as dystopian? Like, I do like a good dystopian book.
No, it's more of an action adventure.
Oh, ooh.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So a guy ends up in China, and he's got to get back to the United States without using his passport or his credit cards. And so that's easy to do.
Like climbing the mountains to get out, kind of thing. Yeah.
Right.
I watched Sound of Music. I know how this ends.
And I had to do it without a balloon. So it was anyway. So I wrote that one, and it took me 3 weeks to write. And I thought, well, that was awfully easy. And while I was writing it, I was thinking about this Blake Franklin character, and then I just started to write. And it was like every 3 or 4 weeks I was finishing a book, and I would send it to an editor and start on the next one. And by the time they would be finished with editing one book, I'd be finished with another book. And it was a wonderful experience.
Do you feel that like this writer has always just been in there, and finally when you could give up all the boring work stuff that keeps us like tied to the desk or whatever,
Yes, I do. I think that there have probably been moments over the last 22 months that my wife regretted suggesting that I just stop talking about it and do it, because I'm obsessed with it. I mean, I just sit and write all the time until 3 months ago, I stopped writing, and I bought a restaurant. So I'm back in the restaurant business, and it's given me fits.
What kind of restaurant is it? I know you can't. I mean, you can if you want to promote, but
I actually can. Yeah, it's a little place. My son has been an owner there for a long time, for about 9 years. And I bought out his partner, so I'm partners with my son. I felt like I was investing in him more so than the restaurant. But it's called 940's Kitchen and Cocktails. It's in Denton, Texas, about 20 miles from here. And it's an American bistro with elevated comfort food and craft cocktails. Ooh. And it's a lovely little place.
I am 47, and that sounds like my jam. You want like an easy place with good drinks and good food.
Yeah, that's it. And this may be too far to drive, but maybe not. I don't know.
Hey, you never know where I could end up. I could end up in Dallas and be like, you know what?
Yeah.
I need a half day because I'm going to check out Ryan's restaurant.
Yeah, there you go.
I worked in for a sports restaurant for 11 years. On the East Coast. I don't work there anymore, so I won't mention it. Okay. And now I work for a regional, local, very popular bagel shop. Okay. That is very well known, like in Baltimore.
Okay.
I won't mention it. I don't own it, but so like I'm in marketing, so I stumbled kind of into food service marketing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yet another thing we have in common.
Yeah. Love the restaurant business. It's one of those things that it gets in your blood, and if you love it, it's like adrenaline. If you don't, it's like blood poisoning. But I love it. So
I think I waver between blood poisoning and loving it. Like I love it for a long time, and then all of a sudden, you're chasing. You're always chasing.
yeah.
Chase. And I'm a planner. So that can be a little tiring for me.
Yeah.
Well, that is fascinating. Okay, so I have cards because I'm lame like that. And, I work today, so I got to remember, keep my wits about me.
Okay.
So with crossing Big Coal River, I heard you say that the other stories just sort of came out of you. Obviously, I'm guessing there's a personal investment in these stories, having grown up in West Virginia, your dad leaving at 17. So was this something too that like you had an idea and all of a sudden the story was there, or did it evolve as you wrote it?
It evolved as I wrote it, and I had an idea about it, and I started it in 1959, and I started. My earliest memories of going to West Virginia were around the 1960, 61 time period.
Yeah.
And going up on Coal River and staying at my papa's house, and the scenes and the setting in the book is exactly where my papa lived. You go across. Oh yeah. So
I have questions.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you walk across a swinging bridge, and then you walk through a field up to a railroad track, and you walk down the railroad tracks, and you get off onto a path, and you go up, and there was this row of houses, and he was in the very first one, and then there was three beyond his, and then there was another one that was across the way. That in the book, is the big manor on the hill, but in reality, it was in shambles, and everybody threw crab apples through the windows. It was a disaster, but it was huge. And I used to look at this big house and think, man, at some point that must have been really nice there. Yeah. So in my book, it's really nice. It's a good house.
Question. Let's just dive in a little bit, because I looked up the Maxine Bridge and I couldn't find it.
It's gone.
Is it gone now? Yeah.
There's a car bridge there now.
Yes, I've seen it. One lane.
Yeah. So when I looked at Google Earth during the time I was writing the book, just to see if everything was still there, they've got bridges and roads and neighborhoods and everything is like so in the field where my characters and I as a child, we used to go up there and play baseball with shirt rocks in this big open field. That's all housing now, and streets and indoor plumbing and all that modern
indoor plumbing.
Yeah. So yeah, it was weird to look at it, but I still have kin that live up there, and my uncle, who is early 70s, probably 73, 74, something like that. He read the book and he was like, man, I can't. He said, you nailed it, man. This is exactly the way I remember it. He said, but it isn't like that anymore. So
he is still there, or he's not there?
Well, he doesn't. He lives up there in West Virginia, about probably 20 miles from Maxine. And I have an aunt that still lives up there too, and they're the only two up there. And then I've got another aunt that is now in Arizona, and I sent her some of the chapters ahead of time because I wanted to make sure that I had the book dialectically correct. And she said, oh yeah. She said, you nailed that. And she said, I can't believe you remember the names of the people.
Okay, that was another question I was going to. You're stealing all my questions, Ryan.
I'm so sorry. So in the restaurant business, you have to anticipate needs. So anyway,
That's true.
Yeah. So the last names are the same as people who were friends and neighbors of my papa and my uncles that hung out with them. But I changed the first names around to protect the innocent.
Okay, we're going to get back to that because I wanted to vet. First of all, after this, I need you to put an X on the field where the houses are, because I'll tell you, I was like swiping in Safari or whatever, like Apple Maps, looking for I was like walking up the railroad trying to figure out where all these things were, and I was really irritated with myself that I couldn't figure it out.
Did you see the giant mansion that's up there on the
I
hill?
did it because I followed the track and I wasn't sure whether to go north on the track or
Oh,
south. And then Comfort kind of swoops around, the river swoops around Comfort. So I was
yeah.
like, am I even in the right place?
Yeah, you're in the right place, but yeah, so halfway between the Maxine Bridge and Comfort, there's a big mansion that's up on the hill,
Okay.
and that mansion has taken up the space where all 5 of those houses were before.
Oh.
Yeah, it's and I think that he's a big landowner up there.
You think he probably owns? Well, I looked. Raven Crest Mining Company.
Yeah.
I did my research. So back to environment. One of the things I talked about with Chris Fates, I think you saw the interview like back in July or August or something,
Mm-hmm.
was world building. I love world building, but this was completely different because you had to recollect a world that you knew and you laid the story on top of this world.
Right.
Right. So she was saying, like, I just invented a world. It was easier, not easy because she invented it, but like I could make up all the rules. Where that's what I was going to ask you. Like, how much did you feel that you really had to be genuine to, taking a left turn or a right turn or whatnot?
I felt like I had to be pretty accurate in like directions and the little towns that you drive through to get to Whitesville and so forth, and where the sawmill was. I felt like I had to be pretty accurate about that, and I remembered the high school that my uncles went to. Yeah, to
it's
Sherman
there.
High School. It is there, and as a matter of fact, I was contacted by a school teacher at Sherman Middle School, who read the book, and she said, "I just wish that you had a version that was suitable for middle school kids, because I would love to have it as a school project to read it, because it is." She said, "This is where I grew up, and it's what I remember." So I rewrote a version and took out all of the foul language that the gangsters speak, and gave her a clean version, and they made it a school project. So I thought that was very cool.
Out. Do they have it at the high school though? Because I mean, the high school.
I don't
just go to the high school.
I don't know. A number of people from I joined the Facebook group for the high school, and let them know the reason I was doing it was because of this book, and a lot of the people that were there bought it, but I don't know if the school did. But
wouldn't that be cool if you went back to like the school and gave a reading or something?
Oh, it would be fantastic. Yeah, my uncle, he got all 3 of the series, and after he read it, he gave it to my aunt, who read all 3 of them, and then she gave it back to him, and now it's in the library where he lives. So yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to your father, because I have to follow some of my cards. I mean, I spent so much time writing them. I hate to put
absolutely.
it.
You got to do it.
Your dad leaving at 17. So he left before he got into the mining industry. His father was in the mining industry.
So my papa claimed to have worked in the mines. My dad said, I don't remember that ever happening, but my dad never worked in the coal mines, and he left because he wanted nothing to do with the coal mines. I've got uncles and cousins, like my one cousin, and his name is actually in the book, sort of. But my cousin Johnny Lee Michaels is worked in the coal mines. He dug low coal for a while, and then he got out of the mines and became a mining inspector. And in the book, John Michaels John Michaels is a mining inspector.
I love that.
So yeah. But my papa never worked in the mines, but he claimed that he did. But I had other relatives that did, and the sawmill. Those were the primary places that people were able to find work up there.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you, because I was obviously pretty heavily looking all over Boone County for all of the places that are in the story, but I didn't see a sawmill, which is maybe hard to see from Google Earth or whatnot. I did see, and I couldn't see any of the, I guess they're called shaft mining or drift mining, versus I saw a lot of the
strip mining.
Yeah, the surface mining is so visible.
Yeah.
But I was trying to figure out like where the mines were theoretically compared to like how far from the town?
Yeah, that was creative license there.
Okay, see, that's what I looked, Brian, I looked.
Yeah.
I'm like zooming in and it would go away and I'm like, oh, so
Yeah,
close.
yeah. And I put the sawmill at Sylvester just because Sylvester was on the way to Whitesville.
Right. Yes.
But I don't know if there was ever a sawmill there or not.
Okay, so Ashford is a family name, but it's also the name of the town that's like just northwest.
Right. Yeah. And I didn't know that when I named them Ashford. And my uncle told me, yeah, Ashford's not too far from here. So, what? I didn't know that.
That's where Ravencrest Mining Company is located.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was like mining companies near Ashford.
So the story behind I wanted to write this book, and I got the idea when I was on an airplane flying to Cabo San Lucas for my granddaughter.
That must have been a terrible trip.
It was horrible. I thought it would never land, but I was going there for my granddaughter's wedding, and so we were there for about 7 days, and I wrote the book while I was there. Every night I was on the keyboard just going nuts.
Wow.
And when I came back, I was probably 90% done with it. And I sent some chapters to my aunt to review, just to make sure that I had the dialect right and everything. And while she was reviewing that, I finished it. And so it just didn't take long. It was like the whole thing was probably an 11-day process writing the book. But because it just comes to me, and I'm a pantser, and I'm visualizing it as if I'm watching a movie as I'm writing, and just
I don't know enough about any like other authors to know if this is like, oh, so and so also said they wrote this way. Like it just seems to me magical somehow that you can write a book in 11 days. That's very good.
Yeah, the thing that I love about it is that it seems to make sense the way it starts and the way it finishes, and the action that happens in the middle keeps people entertained, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
But I'm a TV fan and a movie buff, and so the scenes I feel more like a director than a writer, and the scenes have to make sense, or I change direction. So
yeah, well, because I didn't know, again, no spoilers. So like I talk in code a lot, right? And I think that's fine because then people will watch it and be like, "What is she talking about?" There's an incident at the front of the book. I think is that in the description? So maybe we can say
it mentions that there's a mining disaster. Yes.
So there's a mining incident in the front, and then there are, incidents throughout, which I did not see coming because I thought we'd be focusing on the mining thing. And the mining incident is like the ribbon that weaves it all together because they keep coming back to it and they're trying to figure out what happened. But the story is not about the mining incident at all. No, it's kind of about human nature and humans reacting and trying to justify and make things right.
It is. It's pretty much a coming of age story about Quincy Ashford and him growing as the man of the family and taking responsibility and doing the right thing for his mom and he's the arc of his character in that book and in the next two is quite remarkable.
Well, let me get to Quincy in a minute. I mentioned early on I like connections, and we obviously have so much in common. Did you know that there's also a town called Costa?
I did not.
Yeah, it's south of Ashford, which I have this thing where I like find connections, and it's probably a complete coincidence in the world, really. I mean, like, I'm willing to admit it could be complete coincidence, but I see it and I'm like, see?
Yeah.
See? I was meant to look it up. Like to me, it's like a theme, whether it's like words that I keep seeing in different books that I read or whatever. I mean, there were a couple things in your book. Costa, which is not in your book, but it was south of Ashford when I went to look it up. And Quincy's birthday is the same birthday as my son.
Really?
Yes. And I had a bird named Quincy, but that is not as exciting.
But what was the bird's birthday?
I have no idea.
Okay. Oh.
No idea. But no, that was fascinating when I saw my son is talking. No, you got to go. Sorry. Oh, geez. Live video. I'm like, go to bed. Okay, so let's get to the names of the characters, because you said the last names carry over, but the first names are made up. And I was wondering if you were naming people after. I mean, obviously the landscape is completely real or true
Yes.
to what you remember,
Yes.
but the names. We've got Virgil.
Yes. I have an uncle named Virgil. His name is Virgil Purdue. And so I had to bring the Purdues in. And I also have I guess she would be a second cousin. My dad's cousin is Bunchy Purdue, and her name is in the book as Roger's sister.
Oh, is it Bunchy? Why don't I remember that?
Yeah, but his sister Bunchy is named in the book.
Oh, how do you spell Bunchy?
Bunchee.
Is Bunchy alive?
No, she's not anymore.
I was going to say hi to her.
Yeah.
Hi, Bunchy.
But then she had a son. So Quincy is based on two of my cousins. My cousin Johnny Lee, who became the mining inspector, was vertically challenged, but he was a tough little son of a gun, and he was a Golden Gloves boxing champion.
Wow.
And then my other cousin, Bunchy's son, was also a Golden Gloves boxing champion, but he was 6'4" and weighed about 190 pounds, and he was a monster. And his size and strength and my cousin Johnny's nature and the way he treated his mother, those two people combined became Quincy.
Okay, so that makes sense, because like as I was thinking about like our talk, I was trying. Quincy's so likable, right? I mean, and I'm a mother of a son too. My son is 7 and just went upstairs and hopefully to bed. But you love your boys. I mean, you love your girls too. Nothing against girls. I have a girl too, but like, he's little and they're cute when they're little. So I could feel, at least what I interpreted, Ryan, that you were very affectionate towards Quincy. And I don't know exactly what I mean by that, but you love him.
Oh, I do.
I could feel the way you described him, even his little weaknesses or quirkiness, like you portrayed him as this character that you very much care for. And I could feel that come through in the story.
I gave Quincy a moral code that mirrors my own. He has a respect for women. He respects his mom. He looks out for the little guy, and he'll fight for the little guy, and he's that's just his nature. And so my cousins were like that, and Quincy is like that, and so is Dwayne, and Dwayne is my middle name.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
But I feel like Dwayne sometimes could probably get himself into trouble. Like he doesn't have the pause that Quincy has. Quincy has pause.
Yes, you're right. Yeah. Well, Dwayne never had an older brother to keep him in check.
That's
and Quincy had an older brother that he idolized. I mean, it gives him a kick that the school teachers say, you're a spitting image of your brother, because he's very proud of his brother.
Yeah.
So, and he wanted to follow in his footsteps of quitting school and going to work in the coal mines, because that's what everybody does.
Well, that's it too, because like when obviously we don't know Virgil for very long. We know his character.
Right.
Character meaning, the stuff that makes him tick, not character in the literal sense. And we know Dwayne, but we don't know him quickly, right? It takes some getting used to. So we're very quickly introduced to Quincy. And you get the feeling, well, not get the feeling, it's just said, that he does want to follow in the footsteps of his dad and of Dwayne. But like, I feel like there's something else there. Like, he has some, I don't want to call it wisdom exactly, because that's not really the word I'm going for, but something that like maybe is from his mother. Like you see him as, here's Virgil going up through into the mining. Here's Dwayne following his footsteps. Quincy knows or feels that that's his responsibility to follow, right? Third boy in the family.
Yes.
But there's a quality of his mother there that Dwayne does not have.
And for Quincy, his mother, Libby is a very, very strong character in his life, and even you'll see in the other books, even as he gets older, if Mama says something, you do what Mama says. And he's just got that kind of respect for her, and they just have that kind of relationship. And so when she says you're not going to do that particular thing, you're going to do it this way. Yes, ma'am.
Until Raylan comes along, then he's not listening to Mama.
Well, yeah. Then he's got to convince Mama that she might have been a little rash. So
to shift a little bit, and if Raylan is like after somebody, I'm so sorry, because like I saw it from a mother's perspective. I was like with Libby, and I'm like, they're giving all the like family history of all her uncles and brothers and all that. And I'm like, oh, she's bad. She's a hussy. Hussy, is that a word people use anymore?
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, I'm like, oh no, she's not. She's really sweet.
Yeah, like, she's not a hussy at all.
No, but the way like they played off her family, I thought it was going somewhere.
Yeah.
And then, Quincy was right. And she was just a sweet girl and kind of like left alone and lost. I don't know. Don't want to get too much into that, but I sided with Libby in the beginning, and I was like, this isn't going anywhere. And then by the end, Raylan redeemed herself. So
yes,
if she's idolized or whatever after someone, that person is very lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. They have a relationship that is admirable and sweet.
And sweet. Yeah. And I didn't see it coming. So the Libby, you said about her being strong. One of the lines I really liked from the book, and it's very, very early on. It's kind of after the accident, the mining accident, and she's realizing kind of the implications. But there's this beautiful line that I think honors her and strong country women. I don't know like what title to put on these women, but says she and her boys would survive. It's what women in the mountains had always done.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like reading at the beginning and I was like, yeah. It's like, the story is really masculine, right? It's got lots of men and there are like a couple women in it. And you like gave her a hat tip of like, the story really isn't about Libby. She's in it, but like recognizing that the men have this powerful female beside them as well.
Yes. Yeah. And so Libby, first of all, the name Libby is taken from the Starlings are in the book.
Yes.
Okay. And they have 14 kids.
Insane.
And the real family is that lived in that house exactly as I described it. Their name is Stringer. Hello to any of the Stringers who might be watching.
Hi, Stringers.
But Libby Stringer was an absolutely beautiful girl. When I was like 6 years old, I saw her and I was like, "Oh, Mama, I love her."
She's your Raylan.
Oh man, yeah, exactly. And so I named Quincy's mother Libby, but Libby is based on my mom. So
I figured you can tell you love her.
Yeah.
You can tell you love her. The boys love her. She's strong. I mean, there was no point when she went through a lot in this book, and there was no point that you ever felt she didn't have it together.
Yeah. She's a tough lady.
And with Virgil, there was one quote that I really, really liked. Again, speaking to, there are two parts. I think in some ways you are recognizing just the absolute beast that mining is on humanity and humans and society and how awful and unfair and hard it is. But at the same time, you're like, all that aside, we need to respect them and the work they do and honor them. And they're kind of this, silent minority that the rest of us have the luxury of forgetting about. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so you said about Virgil, and I left one sentence in the middle out just because it doesn't make sense to like the point I'm trying to make. So it's all exactly your words except for like this little bit.
Okay.
That's the measure of a miner's life in a nutshell. You work until the calluses on your hands bleed and your back won't let you stand up straight. Whose right is it to judge another man's life? As long as he works hard, he's worth his salt.
Yeah.
I got little shivers.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's everything. Like you and I live in, in lots of people live in the luxury of the nice house and the air conditioning and everything, right? Netflix, we both like TVs and Kindles.
Yes.
And to these people, getting up every day for 65 years and taking care of your family and then going to bed at night is it.
Right.
That's what's expected of them. That's what they expect of themselves.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And they don't care if somebody is considered a hard drinker or somebody that gets into
That was
whatever.
That was the part I pulled out.
Yeah. As long as they provide for their family and they work hard and they don't have everybody else around them pulling their weight, then they're a man. And
that's the judge of a man. And that's what the boys grow up seeing, right? Like,
right.
My dad's doing a man's work. I'm sitting here in class, and I'm going to go do a man's work because that's how I judge my character and my worth.
Right. And that's
think
my dad quit school in the 8th grade, and most of his brothers did as well. I think that my uncle who lives up there now, he went the furthest of any of them. And my dad had 12 kids in his family, and he went the furthest, and he went to the 11th grade.
So I read that 74.9, so less than 75% of minors have a high school education or less.
Wow.
Because I was thinking that, it's like Quincy's so bright. He's so bright. Like, who wouldn't want your boy? You'd be like, you can be an engineer, but that's not where they live. That's
right.
not,
right.
They live in a place where they go to work and they provide for their families. Poor guy's, I haven't read the second book, but he's going to get married young. Like, he's not waiting until I was 37, that's not happening here.
Right.
And nor does anyone have the luxury to do that.
Right. Yeah. Like my dad, he joined the Air Force at 17, went off to basic training, came back. My mother lived next door to him, but they were 4 years apart in age. No, 3 years apart in age. And so they really didn't know each other because there was kids her age that she hung out with. He came back after basic training and said, her name was Dixie, and he said, "Dixie Ann, you want to get married and get out of these hills?" And she said,
"No."
Yeah. She was 15 years old, and she barely knew him, but that meant getting out of the hills.
Oh.
But
she knew of him, right? They're the family next door. She knew he was upstanding and a good guy and all that.
Well, yeah, she knew of him. Yes, she did. And still they got married. And then they went off and did like so many of them did, just started having kids, and it was.
How many siblings do you have?
I've got 5 brothers and sisters.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I have 2. And I think that's a lot.
Oh no, that's not a lot.
I know it's not, but it feels like a lot.
I have 3 kids. Their life growing up was completely different story than mine was. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. Born in Charleston. Quincy, the name, was he named after anyone?
No.
Okay. Because Quincy was the one name, and there's a joke about it in the book. Well, sort of. Because I was like, is that like a West Virginia name? And then someone says something about Quincy, and he's like, I forget the joke, but she's like, is there another Quincy?
Oh, yeah. It's me, Quincy Ashford.
Yes. Yeah. And she's like, who else would there be?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that.
I know, because I would have gotten you confused with all the other Quincy's.
Yeah.
Let's see. That was all. We talked about Quincy. Do you have Easter eggs in your book for your family members?
No.
I was just wondering. I was like, is there grandma's favorite meatloaf is mentioned on page 65? Nothing like that.
Oh, wow. Okay. I kind of do. There's a couple things that Libby says that my mom used to say. And when my brother and sister read that, they recognized it.
They did.
Yeah.
And did you do it intentionally, or it just sort of flowed out of you because you were in the movie?
No. I did it intentionally because I wanted people reading that to recognize Libby as my mom, and because my mom was a feisty little woman.
Did your mom ever stab anybody with a knife or a pen? Just wondering.
No, but she threatened to. Yes, she did.
My mom's watching right now, and she has never stabbed anyone, but she did pour water or popcorn over someone's head before. So
Okay. Well,
not as drastic, but we all have it in us, right?
Yeah, that's feisty.
You got to be feisty. You got to support yourself and defend
That's
yourself.
right.
Is it danger is not the right word, but like, is it, I can't think of another one. Is it dangerous, risky to model characters after people you know? Like, do you think anyone would have been?
I don't think so, because I try to be respectful of all of them.
Yeah.
And there are, for example, my aunt who lives in Arizona that reviewed several chapters. She that's my Aunt Debbie. Hi, Debbie.
Hi, Debbie.
Debbie is married to one of the Stringers, and Bill Stringer. So in the book, Bill Starling is the preacher.
Right.
In Maxine, Bill Stringer was the preacher. And so she recognized her right away, because I mean, the kids' names in there are the Stringers. So she recognized who the Starlings were right away. But I'm respectful of them. I've got fond memories and admiration and love for all of them. So I wanted that to come over.
So none of the regulators are named.
The Chicago mobsters. Nah, I don't care about them.
I mean, you did work in the restaurant industry. There are probably a handful of people that could have deserved some naming.
I've dealt with a few when I was in Pittsburgh. I dealt with a few. So yes.
That whole leg scene makes me very uncomfortable. The description. I'm not gonna go to, the leg scene.
Yeah. And I have a cousin who that happened to. I mean, not
by a regulator.
Not by a regulator, but just by a slip and fall kind of thing. So yeah, and when he told me about it, I was like, couldn't even imagine.
No, that's absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to talk, because we're coming up on an hour already, Ryan.
Oh,
how did this happen?
That's crazy.
I know. We're just gonna have to do this for all your books. I mean, It'll take us 1,000 years on my end. You're like at my TBR list. You're just gonna keep growing books, and I'm never gonna catch up. One of the things. Oh no, I did have one more thing, because I thought it was so interesting. I haven't read a lot of books about mining. Where is it? Here it is. I did read 33 Men, which terrified the living daylights out of me. That's in Chile, right? I think Chile.
Right. Yep.
And we saw the movie, which was also, I mean, wonderful and terrifying.
Yep.
Because you get claustrophobic. But you know me now, I was doing my research, and I was like, did he have a mining disaster that this was like designed after? And I have a guess, but I want you to tell me, and then I'll tell you what I thought.
There was a mining disaster that happened during that time period. I don't know that anybody caused it, that it was mechanical failure or whatever, but there was a mining disaster, and it affected the people in that area just as I've described. I mean, it's a horrendous thing when everybody has to go up there and form bucket brigades and work to try and dig people out. So.
Well, because I looked, because the book place takes 59. Is that right? 59?
Yes, 59.
Because I was like, all right, mining disasters in West Virginia. This is what I look like when I type, by the way. Mining disasters in West Virginia in the 50s. And there were a couple, but I didn't find any in Boone County. And I want to know if you know this or not. Do you know that there's one in 1940 that's on the exact day that you used?
I did not know that.
January 10th, 1940. And I was like,
wow.
Get out. It was in Bartley, which is in a different county. I'll have to look it up. And it was a methane explosion, Ryan.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. No. Is that Wyoming County?
No, it may be. I didn't write down the county. I wrote down Bartley.
Okay.
So my mom's watching. Maybe she can look up Bartley, West Virginia, and see if she can find the county while we're talking. But yeah, 91 died. And I was like, did he? So again, like, you used Quincy's birthday, which is my son's birthday. And then I was like, January. It was just, it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's a coincidence.
Well, before we wrap up, and I don't know if you intended to do this, but I just, this book for me, as I said, like, opened my eyes a lot to things I think I knew occurred and happened, and I knew how people lived, but like I was doing research in mining, obviously, to make sure, I had my terminology right. And some of the things are just shocking. So, like, I think I said already that like 75% of miners have a high school education or less. I thought that was sad. This September of this year, there were 22,000 miners in West Virginia. 22,000 people that like we don't know the risk they're putting on themselves and their families every single day.
Right, right. And it's different now in terms of the equipment and the technology, but it's still a dangerous, backbreaking, just awful way to have to make a living. But it is a way to make a living.
Well, and so then this is the next thing. So, like you and I are in the restaurant industry and everyone's like tips, 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 and all, minimum wage, tipped wage.
Yes.
The average pay of a miner now is $16.37 an hour. And I thought McDowell County, my mom said, McDowell County is where the incident was. But I was like, here we are talking about servers. Okay, hard job. We've done it. Not easy. Not always fun.
Right.
And they're tipped wages. And miners who are climbing down deep, dark holes, inhaling dust.
Yeah, miles into the earth.
Miles into the earth. Like the only way they can work in that environment is if pumps pump out gas so they don't burn to death.
Right.
Make $16 an hour?
And I pay my line cooks that. And they complain that it's hot in the kitchen. It's like, it's a kitchen.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Teachers, yes, you are underpaid. I'm not trying to pull out anyone to say anyone's better or worse than anyone else. But like, what the heck? Like these men, mostly men, I assume they're mostly men still, like are just they're putting their lives on the line every single day, and they're making $16.37 an hour.
Right, and then to have a lot of people in the country complain about what they produce.
Right,
and it's absolutely necessary for the other clean type energy and that sort of thing. It's a necessary thing. It's rough. It's a rough way to live. Well.
And that leads me a little to my review, because I wanted to honor not just your story in my review, Ryan. I wanted to honor, I think what you tried to do here is highlight a group of people and how hardworking and dedicated they are to their jobs. Like, Quincy is going to go on and do really great things, I'm sure. But not everybody gets that opportunity, right? Yeah. Not everybody has any chance to get out of where they are, and they just follow in the footsteps, and they're happy and they're proud. Like, so I don't want to take any of that pride away from them, but like, it's a hard gig.
It is.
It's physically hard. It's mentally hard. It's all the things. And if we movie tickets are canceled, we feel slighted, and these people have a fraction of what we have. So you haven't read my review yet. So I'm going to bring it up if I can use this appropriately. Our faces are going to go away for a second, so I'll read it out loud.
Okay.
Crossing Big Coal River gives readers a glimpse into the lives of hardworking coal mining families and the risks and sacrifices they face as a result of their livelihoods, often experiencing both natural disasters and intentional acts of sabotage in the course of their careers. These people quite literally power our country's hunger for progress. Not only is this story a tribute to generations of fathers and sons who often begin a man's work before they graduate high school, but it shines a light on the dangers inherent to their profession and the powers that work to keep them under tight control. If you like historical fiction, Appalachia, and stories of perseverance despite the odds, this is for you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, I really felt in reading this that this was more than a story about Quincy. You know what I mean? It was really like a telescope into a world that most of us don't see and pretend doesn't exist. Right.
And I tried to capture the respect I have for those folks in life. in the subtitle of the book, which is if coal is king, then miners are royalty, because they work harder than most people can even imagine.
Yeah, you and I are tired at the end of the day, but that's nothing.
Right.
Do you have the book near you? I don't have the hardcover. Do you have it near you?
I do.
Let's see that cover. Look at that pretty cover. And that's not the same bridge, right?
It is not.
Okay.
But it's very, very similar.
Because I was wondering on the height,
Yeah, well,
if you
bridge,
fell from it, for instance,
the bridge is about 40 feet above the water level. But when my mother was a little girl, she said the water was almost up to the bottom of the bridge, and one of her brothers threw her off the bridge and told her to sink or swim, and that's how she learned how to swim. I didn't like that uncle, by the way, but by the time I'm a little kid walking across that thing and it's rocking back and forth, I was scared to death. It was 40 feet down to maybe a foot and a half of water and rocks. So yeah.
That's it. Because my husband canoes and we're kayaking folk. And so when I was looking up Big Hole River, I wanted to see like how deep it was, and it's not that deep.
No.
It was like a foot and a half yesterday. And I was like, that would hurt if you fell.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it would.
But apparently not kill you.
Well, and it depends on how heavy your suit is.
Wink, wink. Yeah. Wink, wink. No spoilers. All right. So Ryan, what's next for the series? Give us a hint into the 2 current other books.
So in the next one, it's 3 years forward, and Quincy, he joins the army and he's in Vietnam when the book starts, and we're real hopeful that he makes it home.
Is there a lot of Vietnam in the book, like live action?
3 chapters.
Okay.
Yeah.
I read Kristen Hanna's Vietnam book, and my generation, I'm 47, we didn't get a good glimpse, I think, into what Vietnam was all about. No one talked about it.
Right.
So the few books that I've read on it, like, blew my mind because I had no context. No one ever talked about it. So, okay, go ahead. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah. So it's got three chapters of it. There's some action scenes and some jungle scenes that the folks experienced over there. And my dad was in Vietnam, and my uncles were in Vietnam, and but the thing that was common between my dad and my uncles is they wouldn't talk about it. So it was very. I had to do a little bit of reading to find out what it was like to go out on recon missions and stuff, because the people that actually did it don't talk about it.
Right.
So, and I didn't do it.
Which doesn't give us anything to learn from.
Right.
Except that was a huge mistake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that's book 2, and I'm assuming that has a decently happy ending because there's a book 3.
Because there's a book 3, yeah, and book 3 is another year down the road, and things are going better for Quincy and Raylyn, and then there's some religious fanatics that start killing off people that make moonshine. And
that's the moonshine book. Okay.
Yeah, it's a moonshine book, and Quincy does not imbibe, but he gets caught up in it because he looks out for people. So,
oh, gotta love Quincy.
He's such.
I'll name my next son Quincy. I won't have one.
I have a new great niece that was born last week, and her name is Quinn.
Is that a coincidence?
Oh, I don't know. It's a coincidence.
See, I love all these things. Like, again, you're a reader. Did you read Rabbits?
No.
Rabbits. It's kind of sci-fi fantasy, and I'll leave it at that. But it's all about connections, except in the book they're purposeful. So now I can't help but see them. You know what I mean? So the birthday, Quincy's name, the date that is actual in an explosion that you didn't know about, Costa being south of Ashford. I'm like, really? Yeah. That's just a lot of coincidences.
A lot of them, yeah.
I can't remember. Is the word copse in your book? Because that would just nail it. Copse, like a copse of trees. Yeah, that's in like 90% I read.
Oh, I call it a copse of trees.
You call it a copse? I thought it was a copse.
Oh, yeah.
This is this is the difference in audiobooks when you mispronounce words because you think you know what they sound like.
Yeah, in the second book there's a copse of trees.
See?
Yeah.
This was meant to be, Ryan. Our friendship is for real.
Yeah, and I don't know or hang out with a lot of short people, but I like you. This is good. My sons are really big. I'll send you a picture where I'm standing with my son and my two grandsons, and I look like I'm standing in a hole.
Really?
Yeah, my son is 6'8", and my grandsons are 6'7" and 6'3". Yeah,
my husband's 6'1". I thought that was tall.
It is tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my daughter's 5'8.5", I think she'll say.
Wow.
Yeah, but I just got the short jeans. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
World needs some short people to sprinkle in with all you tall people.
Absolutely.
All right. Where can people find you, Ryan?
All the books are on Amazon. And I'm starting right now to get them into some other stores, but right now it's just Amazon. So
okay, you let me know when you roll out to different stores where you want all my reviews, because I'll be happy to put them wherever you want them.
Thank you.
And what's your website? Because people can find you.
It's RyanHaleBooks.com.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Stay on for a minute. We'll chat, but say goodbye to everybody. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you very much, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.